Like, share and subscribe for more great Cobra Kai content. Get this video to 100 likes if you want more Cobra Kai videos like this one. Turn on notifications to never missing another Cobra Kai video again. And now let's begin. During the last 24 hours I couldn't as much as blink without seeing the whole scene from yesterday would play on the insides of my eyelids. How I had pushed Miguel in the exact wrong direction, how he had stumbled over the banister, exact wrong moment, exact wrong time, exact wrong spot. It was all my fault, everything. He had really said he was sorry. I was the one who went on. I didn't understand how I could have even turned around and left. Robby, what did you do? What was I supposed to do? How could I ever face what I had done earlier when I didn't even know how badly hurt I had caused? The day after the big fight I found myself outside the Larusso's house. The driveway was empty. I knew as much that Anthony was at school without causing a fight, and I hadn't seen a sign of Sam. Could it really be that she had been hurt so badly she was in hospital? There wasn't a sign of life inside the windows. I needed my things. Couldn't I just run for a train or a bus or anything? Never return and start over and never tell anyone about what I had done and who I was. I hadn't slept for a minute of the last 24 hours. Hunger and tiredness was confusing me even more than anything else. Before I fainted at the spot, I took my chance and went into the house, quickly went to my bed, grabbed my bag and threw all of what I owned into it. I stopped for a second. Should I leave a note or just get lost? I had done it so many times when I was little. I threw myself on my bed and screamed without words into my pillow. Once, twice, I lost count of how long or how many times it didn't help anyway. Robby. A voice except for my own suddenly interrupted me and I froze where I laid. I laid with my back against him, but there was still no question about who it was screaming at the top of my lungs had made that I didn't hear him come home. I span around and found his look so disappointed. He stood with his arms crossed over his chest, but I would have preferred it if he looked angry rather than the look he gave me now that was just disappointed and as if he didn't know what to think. I didn't either. "I'm really sorry, Mr. Larusso," was the first thing I could think of saying. And I'm just about. I grabbed my bag, half packed with one hand and the skateboard with the other. I should leave. Don't even try it. It was like I hadn't even heard what he had said. I grabbed a shirt that laid on the floor and then half ran towards the door. Mr. Larusso took a step to cover it and when I came close enough sternly looked me into the eyes. "Sit." He gestured towards the bed. "We have to talk." I probably shouldn't. I said sit. I really didn't have any wish or was able to protest, but I couldn't meet his eyes and the way he looked at me, so looking to the floor I sat down on the bed and dropped my things on the floor. I looked at my knees as if they were interesting, like something out of this world, and didn't say anything. I could hear Mr. Larusso moving and felt it in the mattress when he sat down next to me. It was like a hand had gripped around my heart and lungs. I knew I had hurt him. I knew I had hurt him bad, but I could have killed him? I could have killed him. And now I'm not going to let you run away from this and forget it ever happened. As if I ever could. So I'll tell you what's going to happen, and you're going to stand up and look Miguel's mom in the eyes and tell her your point of what happened. Same goes for his grandmother. And when Miguel wakes up, you will make sure to do all you can that he wants and need you to do. And that goes for anything that he needs help with after getting hurt the lot. Do you understand? It would be something about a wheelchair. I shook my head, as if it could help thoughts from spinning in my mind, so to the point, I couldn't catch a single one of them. If I could only go back in time, accept his apology, no, not ever cause that fight. I hope you realize how lucky you are. One single little change in the blow when Miguel fell and it would have been over just like that. Mr. Larusso snapped his fingers to show me how fast and then sighed deeply. I saw in the corner of my eye how he finally looked away from me and raised. If I could understand how all of you even got into this mess. I wasn't so sure I understood neither, and I had been one of the biggest parts of it. Maybe if I wished it hard enough I could close my eyes, then wake up yesterday morning and find the big fight had all been a dream. When I was little, I said after we had been sitting in silence for a long while. And I was angry or sad, I used to throw myself on the bed, put my head in the pillow and then scream for all I was worth. Every time, when I'd done it for a bit it would feel better. Suddenly I remembered some of the times I had been, memories around having to clean my room or losing a soccer game or the time I had fallen with my skateboard and broken my wrist. Friends that weren't there for me when I needed them to. That left and were nowhere to be found when I asked them to do something for me. Something I needed. Being alone, screaming at the top of my lungs was the only thing that seemed to have always helped. But it didn't help this time. I had to clear my throat and force away the tears as it just continued. There were loads of people in my life that would keep shouting at me and yell at me and let me know what I had done wrong as if I didn't know that already. I had to say. I tensed slightly. How long would it take before Mr. Larusso started yelling or kicked me out of his house? I know that when your mom left I made you a promise that if you need anything then I'll be here to help you. And it doesn't matter what happens, I keep my promises. Promises that all people in my life had made before him. As I hear from Sam, everyone in the whole school were fighting. He said, and I nodded, but no one had done what I had. I haven't yelled at someone since I yelled at Mr. Miyagi for not letting me compete that last time. And I'm not going to start yelling now. It was like he had read my thoughts. Quote ellipsis. And certainly not over anything that, no matter how people twist and turn, it must have been an accident. I couldn't help it when I flinched. I would have flown on my feet and yelled at him, but I guess I was more alike Mr. Larusso than we had seen before. Of course, it was an accident. I'd never do something like this on purpose. I didn't even realize where we were on, until it was too late. My breaths finally failed me. The thoughts that people might actually believe I had kicked Miguel over that banister down several floors and almost killed him was something I had meant to do. Now what would happen to me? I coughed and was quite surprised I didn't start gagging. A part of me wanted to stand up, jump over that banister myself, but my whole body was shaking so to the point I would have fallen flat within a few seconds. I could hear Mr. Larusso saying something. But it seemed too far away for me to hear what, even though he sat right next to me. I wasn't sure how long it had been since I last cried over anything at all. I just knew I did right now, while I saw clearly over and over how Miguel had fallen and how I caused it. While I saw clearly how it must be that people would react. If Miguel died now, or was seriously hurt for life, people would never ever want to talk to me again, would they, accident or not? Meanwhile, my vision here and now was blurred like never before as tears rose in my eyes and started streaming down my cheeks. Hey! I could have jumped high with surprise when Mr. Larusso laid his arm around my shoulders. Take a deep breath. Try and breathe, okay. If I could try, then I wouldn't be here right now? After everything that had happened, I couldn't believe how anyone would have stayed by my side, and while I wouldn't have appreciated it, I'd have believed he would. For every second that passed, I believed he would. And the thought of having to be alone only made me cry even more. SCH. Mr. Larusso almost whispered. SCH, calm down. Try and calm down and take a deep breath. Slowly I had to realize he wasn't going anywhere. Slowly I started listening to what he said. My breath slowed down and tears weren't streaming down my cheeks at the exact same pace as before. But I didn't move from where I sat, hunched forward, my elbow against my leg and my forehead leaned against my clenched hand. Then, for a while it was all quiet, as if we both waited for the other to say something. I'm sorry. I said at last. I didn't mean to cry. Don't apologize. You don't have to. When I drew for the first deep breath, Mr. Larusso paused. I'm not certain of many things right now. But two things I am quite sure of. And the first thing's that I don't know how and I don't know when. But things are going to be alright, for you they will. And even though it feels like this right now, in a few hours things might have changed, and then tomorrow they might have changed a bit more, and then the next day a bit more. I do know that we never know when things could change. And even though it seems dark right now, you know. It's always darkest before the dawn. Come here. Don't tell my wife I wipe snot and tears with my sleeve, okay? I didn't know what he meant with that last at first. Then he pulled his sleeve over his hand, moved slightly and started wiping my cheeks and under my nose. At first I just wanted to pull back and tell him I wasn't a baby. But then I couldn't remember anyone ever being this kind to me, so they wiped my face after I had been crying. And with that I silent and didn't move until I had a sudden thought and question. You were certain of two things? What's the second? The second thing is I'm going to make sure you don't have to be alone. And as a third thing, I'm sure that if you ever get sick of me, you should shout something like Daniel freaking Larusso, get the H*LL out of here. I can't stand to see you ever again. There was no laughing matter about what he just said, or about this, but when he just expressed it like that, I just couldn't help but to chuckle slightly. Look, Robby. What happened yesterday has caused a lot of trouble, and I know you know that better than anyone. But I'm not letting you try and run away from it. And we aren't going to just kick you out and hope for the best. Neither are we going to make sure you have to deal with everything and everyone, all at the same time. Can you believe me when I tell you those? I hadn't known Mr. Larusso for long, but it felt like I knew him and trusted him better than I could have ever trusted anyone. And I tried. I tried so hard. I ended up shrugging. I really didn't know. In your own time then. And do you know one more thing I think I know? Here, Robby, look at me. I turned my head. There was something special about his ways. He still looked disappointed, but there was something else. If I hadn't known better from all people I had ever known before. Ellipsis. He really did look like he still wanted to comfort me after everything that had happened. There's a certain look in your eyes. He told me as if he could read my thoughts. Can I ask you something? That I had had enough would be an understatement. The only thought that kept me up was knowing this was all my fault. What? Did you get any rest at all since you woke up yesterday morning? Well, he had already figured exactly everything else that I wished I could have covered. I just didn't want to bother. Especially not after everything right now. No. I could see it. Now, it's unlikely something changes during the nearest few hours, and even if there was, you couldn't face it. I tried to protest, but when I even couldn't find the words to answer him, I realized he was right. If I did anything at all right now, I'd probably end up making everything worse for both myself and everyone else. Sam will be home from the hospital by the afternoon, and you two need to talk. I nodded, agreeing that wasn't exactly rocket science. After that, I'll come and help you talk to the police. Because you're going to have to do that too sooner or later, so you might as well get it over with. Does that sound like a plan? There was a long while of silence. I had stopped crying for a while. Now at the mention that I had to go to the police, I started again, but calmly this time. Without the coughing and hyperventilating. I couldn't understand how I had gotten into something as stupid as this. How could I have been so thoughtless? Hey. Mr. Larusso laid his arm back around my shoulders, and I felt the last of my energy running off, the energy usually left for keeping upright. Come here. It was like he read my thoughts, because he didn't move an inch to the side when I literally collapsed over his lap. It's okay. He just kept stroking my back and kept close. Trust me, it's going to be okay. I hadn't actually intended to fall asleep on Mr. Larusso's lap, out of all places. I wasn't a baby after all. But I was surrounded by dark and fell asleep too fast to have something to say against it. Trust me, it will be okay. And this time around, I actually did believe him. And that it. Did you enjoy the story? Comment below and tell us what you thought. Get this video to 100 likes if you would like us to keep releasing more videos like this one. Turn on notifications to never miss another Cobra Kai video again. Share this video on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and other social media platforms to help new and old fans find our videos. And we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.